Hello everybody, welcome to Tarot Thoughts in Space. This is my first video and it happens to be a declutter video. I've accumulated quite a bit of tarot and oracle decks over quite a few years, and I am limiting myself to a certain amount of space. So there are some decks that I know don't really resonate with me. And so I thought I'd take this first video opportunity to go through these decks and just say why or why not I may or may not keep them. I have quite a bit to share, but a lot of these decks people have seen before. I do have some decks that I'm not sure are quite popular on YouTube, but those aren't decks that I'd likely be getting rid of. So let's begin. So the first deck I was considering getting rid of is the Aquarian Tarot. I got this quite a bit ago. I want to say like 4 or 5 years ago maybe. And the reason why I got it is because I'm a huge fan of Art Nouveau style, which you can kind of see in a lot of the line work, the font, just some of the aesthetics of the images, and even the colors are very soft, muted, warm colors of the Art Nouveau style. Funnily enough, these backs, I don't really think they match the front of the cards, so that was one thing I couldn't connect with. I also couldn't connect with the faces. They almost look a little bit like photorealism. So I really like this deck as to the aesthetic, but it's close up. Some of the faces are a little interesting to say the least. The backs aren't that great. I love the size of it. I love that it comes in a tin. I don't use it too often though because it's more close up, and because it's more close up, I kind of don't really connect with imagery that well when it's close up. Shuffles very well, but yeah, so I don't really connect with imagery when it's that close up. I tend to like to see movement in a lot of the cards, but you know what, if I actually lay these out like that, when I actually lay them out, I do get a sense that I'm able to intuitively read these really well and just kind of get an overall impression. So in essence, it is a good reader for me. I haven't had anything to replace it, so I may consider keeping it until I can find something to replace it. So maybe I might do that because, like I said, I really like Art Nouveau. There are quite a few Art Nouveau style decks out there, but still nothing that's like completely my favorite. So this is what I have so far as Art Nouveau goes, the Aquarian Tarot. The next one is the Triple Goddess Tarot here. You know, I'm not a big fan of decks that come in tuck boxes because many of them come with the little white books, and a lot of the reason why I collected tarot and oracle decks was because I just wanted to be able to expand my knowledge toolbox as to filling it with additional insight, maybe going a little bit deeper with card meanings and stuff like that. So I find I don't get a lot from these little white books, and so I have told myself I'm going to limit myself from purchasing these type of decks, even if the imagery is something I really connect with. I'm also after books, and I love books, and I love reading and connecting with the information in there as well. So this is a really beautiful deck as far as the imagery goes. I kind of connect with the people in this deck, I could definitely see myself in a lot of these people. I also love the mood of this deck. It's not moody, but just a lot of the cooler colors in some of these cards, and the blues and purples. It's very calming. There is one card in here, I think it's the Emperor card, and that was sort of a deal breaker, is why I'm considering removing this deck from my collection. This Emperor card is something that I don't really connect with. It's very dark, aggressive. I'm not sure what this is. Wolf, maybe? But the Emperor makes this impression on me, but if I'm like doing more shadow work, this could be something that I could work through. But generally, overall, I don't really see the Emperor in this kind of negative space. So this is a little bit off-putting. And I do get the Emperor card a lot, so it's just something that if I got that card, I'd be like, oh, man. This one came with a couple extra cards, so I think you had a choice between the full cards. So whenever decks come with extra cards to swap out, I kind of just put all the cards in, and I really like this card. This also reminds me of me as a kid growing up by the ocean. But I leave all the cards in the deck, even if there's multiples, just because I love this card too. Even if they offer multiple cards for a deck, I find that they still offer a different, unique perspective. So this full card is different from the other full card. So if I include both, but only one comes up, this one's a little bit more free-spirited and fun-loving. This one's a little bit more studious and serious. And so depending on which one comes up, carries a different energy. Overall, this deck I do like, with the exception of that Emperor card, and that it kind of came with this little white book. Some of these decks, even if I like the imagery, I'm considering letting go. So this one here, Ethereal Visions, this one is what I would also consider kind of like an Art Nouveau style, but it's softer. And I usually see Art Nouveau as kind of like, I like it when it's more bold, and the imagery, the lines are more graphic. But this one's kind of very soft, pastel-y. It's actually not really my aesthetic overall. I've seen other channels where people's aesthetic is this soft color, and I think it's beautiful, like to see all their decks back to back and see that soft coloring. But for me, I tend to go for more like bold style decks. What I liked about this deck was it sort of reminded me of my sister, and she has this deck, and so sometimes I like to get decks that remind me of people in my life that I care about, because when I use it, it's kind of like tapping into just kind of her aesthetic and energy. But it's just because it's so soft and so pastel that I don't ever reach for this. I keep it because it's pretty, and it reminds me of my sister. So I think this is probably one that would have to go. It's very clear. I love this moon card. See, the blues are totally up my alley. It's very pretty, but did I just say pretty? I meant pretty. Anyways, I think this one would probably have to go. Sometimes if I'm considering rehoming, I might kind of just throw some cards out there and see how I read it and whether or not it's something I'd like to keep. Interesting how all the characters are not facing towards me, they're facing away from me. Maybe it's time for this to set off into the distance. Okay, so the next one here is this Golden Girls deck. So I do have the Friends version of this deck from, and I totally connect with the Friends one because that is something that I do watch. I'm gonna go ahead and riffle shuffle. Shuffle's really nice. But so Golden Girls, I've attempted to connect with Golden Girls quite a few times throughout my life, and it's just not a show I can really connect with. The humor is not really something that I connect with. But I kind of like the idea of this deck, even if I don't watch Golden Girls or I'm not a Golden Girl fan. I like that everybody is older. So I don't know why I find it amusing. I'm not in this age group yet, but I think it's kind of cool to have a deck that, you know, just has older people in it. I do like the style of this deck. It's, I believe they live in Florida, right? If you've been to parts of Florida, it can represent a very Art Deco aesthetic or style. A lot of architecture that's Art Deco. A lot of the hotels and restaurants are in buildings that are Art Deco style, and that era definitely appeals to me. So I also kind of liked that it had a little bit of that Art Deco flair. And I have been to Florida quite a few times, so I kind of just connect with having been there and seeing it in these images. Again, I just think it's kind of comical just to have this deck like this, you know, older ladies in these image settings. It's quite nice, and it's very easy to read. Like, I do have some decks that require more like deeper analysis, I guess, but sometimes it's nice to just have something simple, light, and fun. But the Friends does offer that. So if I was to keep this deck, I want to say it's only because the ladies in this deck are older, and I just like it for some reason. I like the way they're dressed. I think I was an old lady for Halloween one year, and that was fun. So I don't know, I'm kind of on the fence about this still. So maybe I'll keep it, play around with it for a little bit more before I make a final decision. So that's the Golden Girls Tarot. The next one I have is the Seed and Sickle Oracle deck. So I wasn't sure I wanted this deck. I'm not typically into animal decks or floral decks, plant decks. Typically like decks with just people in it for some reason. But I recently moved to the Pacific Northwest and found that a lot of these plants and some animals are popular here. Native maybe is a better word. And so then I was able to connect my environment with some of these plants and animals. And so I considered getting it at that point. I do really like the illustrations in this deck. It's not too soft. Kind of feels like it goes through its seasons of warmth in like spring or summer, winter. So I do really like that. I think what put me off with this deck is that when I got it and I started doing some readings, it was coming out very like negative maybe, or dark. Some of the cards I was getting was didn't make the best impression, and then I was like, I'm always hesitant when I get a deck like that because I kind of like a neutral message or neutral insight, and then, you know, allow me the freedom to kind of interpret that as positive and negative instead of the deck informing me in a negative or positive tone. So any decks that are like maybe overly positive or decks that are overly negative. But I tried to plant some foxgloves recently. Didn't really turn out. But maybe this is a deck that will take time to get to know and see if I can work within a more shadow context. And when I say shadow, it's usually just looking at the parts of myself that maybe I don't want to look at. Yeah, I do feel like this deck kind of can be calling me out on some stuff. Like this card, I think, has a negative message. And of course they have the 2 books, so that can be pretty annoying because I usually just tend to read both messages in both books because I hate having to decide which book I want to use. Drawing this card is a warning that a conflict is on the horizon. And then, yeah, the 2 books is really frustrating about this deck. I usually like to work with things that are a little bit easier and to read kind of quickly. Yeah, maybe that one needs a little time to work with. So, okay, next deck is the Klimt Tarot. Now, with this one, I knew I shouldn't have purchased it because I wasn't digging it. And, of course, it's a tuck box with a little white book. So, this deck, I love the way it shuffles, so I'm going to go ahead and shuffle it if it's too loud. It shuffles really nice. These are the backs. I heard some information surrounding this deck about the artwork. Maybe not all the artwork is consistent with Gustav Klimt. You know what's funny though is I've been seeing, I think I shuffled in some cards backwards. Anyways, I've been seeing his artwork everywhere, so I think I was just kind of like inspired to purchase it. And then I was watching the movie The Craft recently, and they had in one of the scenes the word Gustav Klimt, I think, written on the wall somewhere. So then I was like, oh, I'm gonna get it. Also, I went to a reader and she told me to pick a deck, and I picked this one, and it was a very good reading, so I just want to purchase it to connect with it again. The thing that I struggle with this deck is the extremely skinny figures here. Almost every single one is thin. This is a beautiful card though that I love. So images such as this here, or it at least appears like she looks like she looks fine, but some of the other images, a lot of thin women. And the reason, so just seeing her bones sticking out, I'm not sure why. I haven't read too much on like the artist and what his work's about. But when I was younger, I was really thin, and I'd always get comments from people that were inappropriate. There's always got to be someone who has some comments to say, right? And so I was kind of like insecure a little bit, no, probably a lot of bit, about just my body because it attracted attention, and typically not in a positive way. Well, anyways, I got to my 30s, my body change became more curvy, and you know, that was an adjustment in itself, and that's a lot of inner work having to do with that. But this deck, I think just the thin women was just, it was difficult to look at for some reason. Maybe because I judged them the way people judged me when I was younger. And so I got this deck thinking like, oh, I could definitely work with this and kind of work through some of those issues. And I'm not like motivated to use this deck, but when I do take it out and look at it, I am just enamored with some of the pictures, the colors used. It also has kind of like an Art Deco-y, Art Nouveau vibe to it. I guess this artwork was pretty big too at one decade. I'm not sure which decade. If I had to guess, maybe 80s, 90s, somewhere around there. I remember my parents having artwork that kind of had some vibe to it like this. So my dad wearing those button-up shirts and this geometric vibe to it too. So yeah, I really like a lot of the imagery. I don't feel compelled to play with it. And I'm just presented in my face about too skinny is what just kind of screams at me. So I guess I'm still on the fence about this one. I want to give it a chance, you know. It's like one of the decks where I'm like, no, I want to work through it so I can use it. I think I'll wait on this one. Yeah, I love this card. So pretty. And some people are saying that the images don't really match like the meanings of the cards, but I don't know, I haven't found that as a problem for me. So the next deck is an Oracle deck, Modern Goddess Oracle. This deck is so pretty. And I don't usually just buy decks because they're pretty. I like the bold colors in this deck. I like how so many different women are presented here. I like the different contexts that they're presented in. But you know, these are one of those decks that you won't be able to really glean too much from just looking at it. You can get an overall impression as to who this person is. But if you want to get anything more in depth, you'd probably have to turn to the book. It does have a lot of information, like a little bit background of the goddess and divination meaning, how to work with the goddess, some shadow meaning, which is great, and some healing. So I do have another goddess deck that I think I like even more and that I reach for more, because this one just feels a little bit stagnant. I think I just don't get much from the card itself. And I'll never be able to memorize like all these goddesses. But I think that's also cool because then, you know, there's always something new. I'd probably rarely get bored of this. I do like learning about the different goddesses and where they come from and what the culture is that they represent. So for this one, I think I may hang on to this one. Okay, I thought I was going to get rid of a lot of decks, but I guess not. I always want to give them second chances. That's just my personality. So the Angel Wisdom Tarot. So this one I got because I really connected with some of the images. And it comes with a really nice book that has a lot of information in it. The messages are just not your standard. They're a little bit different perspective. And then some of the cards are named something different. The thing is, I'm not like one to be inclined to reach for angel decks. I have one other angel deck that's cute and cuddly, and I keep it just because it reminds me of my grandma. Sometimes there will be an image that I can't connect with, and sometimes I can. So like this image here, great, I can connect with this, I can connect with this, but then this just feels very like cut and paste to me. I can connect with this one, I can relate to this one, cut and paste. And I think it's just because the images of the angels look very statuesque. Like they look like statues. They don't look like they flow. Like the people in the cards actually have movement and life. This card I hate. I just hate this card. You know, it's kind of like cheesy. I could laugh at it, but I just want to cut his hair. That's probably how I feel about that card. But anyways, I love this card. But then this, again, it just feels very like cut and paste, and they're supposed to be moving, right? But it doesn't feel like it's moving to me. But this one, I love. Doesn't look cut and paste to me. This one, very beautiful image here. Even this one's okay, but then as soon as you get to one where there's an angel with wings, let's see, this one, no angel, but definitely movement. Here, statue. So another one doesn't appeal to me. If I get like a card without an angel, then I really love this deck. And then once I get one with an angel, it just doesn't, it kind of just pulls me like as if I've switched to another deck. The thing is, I just got this deck, so I'm not sure like I've given it enough time, but I could kind of see myself getting rid of this deck in the future. I started to edge this deck in these colors here, kind of like a bluish sky metallic color. And I'm going to riffle shuffle this. Shuffle's really good. Oh, okay, maybe I'll think about it. So this deck, I'm pretty sure I'm letting go. Pretty sure. This is the Woman of Science Tarot. Now I listened to some YouTube videos on the creation of this deck, and I really stand behind this deck. I really like the concept of it, and I love the major arcana in this deck. It's so vibrant and inspirational. Kind of taps into that scientific field a little bit. So all the major arcanas have beautifully illustrated pictures relating to some aspect of the sciences. So seeing these images is the reason why I got this deck, I think. I really loved how the major arcana were depicted in various ways in a sciencey context. I really love this Tower card. Really cool Moon card. got a great vibe, right? But then what happens is when you switch to the minor arcana, you're presented with ladies in the field who have made big contributions, and I really kind of enjoyed going through and learning about their contributions. But the funny thing is that I'd prefer maybe an illustrated book of this sort. I don't know if I like it in a tarot deck, because what happens is I'm not going to memorize all these ladies and all their contributions and everything they did in order to glean a reading from it. Also, the symbols here aren't as intuitive to me. I would have considered, like, for instance, this symbol is fire, and this symbol is like water, but I believe this symbol here is water, not fire, because I would have thought fire because it just has a combustible nature to it. And then this symbol is fire. And if you look in here, or the little planet is air. This is earth, or pentacles. Fire. Water. But that's not intuitive enough for me to remember, like, as I'm creating a reading for myself. So if I'm doing a reading, these cards come out, you're just not able to tap into your intuition about what's going on in these cards. And I noticed that even if I read about these women, their stories don't really connect with the original meanings. So this is King of Swords, but her background here does not really connect with King of Swords. So if I wanted to use this, I'd just be going off my own understanding of the minor arcana, and that's just like too much work, because then I wouldn't really even need to read about the women, right? So if the whole deck was illustrated like the major arcanas, I would definitely keep it. Like, I love how the major arcana was illustrated. So cool. And I'm not like a serious science nerd or anything, but I like to dip into it, and so this definitely allows me to do that in a fun way. But then, like I said, as soon as I get to the minor, it's just not as fun, and I can't connect. And like I said, I'm a big book person too, so I can't really connect to the stories. The backs are really nice. I really like the concept. But I think this one I'm gonna have to let go, and hopefully, oh, you know what, I did get the Science Tarot, and I got that recently, and so that one is something that I can actually use, because all of the cards, major and minor, are illustrated in a science context, and the book and the meaning of the card correlates with the illustration, so that works for me. This one, not so much. So we have the Jungian Tarot here by Robert Wang. This was actually like one of the first decks that I ever purchased for myself, and I'm not sure why, but, and even now, like when I look at the box, I'm just like, do you like this deck? But then when I like pull it out and actually look at the cards, I'm like, yeah, I think I do. I appreciate the illustrations and the artwork. and it's just a very different perspective. I have trimmed mine, so it's a little bit smaller. I don't know what it is. I like the scenic backgrounds, the way that they are illustrated, the colors that they use. I'm a big fan of like blues and greens and just like very earthy colors. So I think that's the appeal of this one. Cool world card. So then, I don't know if you would call this like pippish. I think it is a little bit pippish. It's pips. And you know, I haven't had a chance to actually like really read any of his books in order to really understand this deck deeply. There's kind of like this sphere in each card, and the symbolism of that I'm not really too sure about. Sometimes if you start pulling cards where there are quite a few of the symbols displayed, it can get a little bit confusing. My like eyes want to shift back and forth and then I have to like focus and count. So it's because they are illustrated in a way that lines the symbols up. You can see that sometimes it's not that easy to just take a glance and know how many is there. They are color, I think color coded is a good word. So I'll show you that in the core cards. These are the cups. Typically there's princess, prince, queen, and king. Swords are yellow. The wands are red. Pentacles are black. The backs are not reversible, but I don't really care about that because I don't notice. I don't notice stuff like that. My eyes just glaze over anyways. And I feel like it's a really good size. If I was to give away this, it's because I just can't really connect. Like for a while I was like, is this upside down? It's supposed to go like this or like this, but then you can tell with the backs it's supposed to go like this with the sphere on top. So I don't know. This is another one where the majors are great and the minors are womp womp. But I'd be more likely to keep this one and give away the other one, the Woman of Science Tarot, just because I won't feel compelled to like read a book because I need to know what the minor arcana illustration is, like the meaning of it. So maybe this one I'll keep. It's one of the decks that I've had the longest, so I think I built a connection with it even if I haven't used it as often. So the next deck is Majestic Earth Tarot. So this one I really struggle with because when I saw it I was like, oh man, I really like this deck. I have to have it, and I think it was sold out, so I got one of the factory reduced discounts to get this one. And it, you know, it's just really stunning. The backs are beautiful, totally up my alley as far as vintage aesthetic goes. I love the extra cards that came in this. Like honestly, probably the extra cards is my favorite thing about the deck. And I would like leave them in so that they were just kind of wild cards that I could pull. And especially this one is my favorite. I grew up by the ocean, so it's a big part of how I relate to life and things bigger than me, and it's just always been a very good place to be. So this card was, oh, be still my heart. But as far as these images go for major, minor arcana, and court cards. Some of them I do really enjoy, but some of them I don't really connect with, like they feel out of place for me. So the art style is beautiful, but it's also not typically my favorite art style. I don't know what art style it's considered. In the small book here, they listed the different art styles: Luminism, Romanticism, Symbolism, Academicism, Realism. Not really my jam. I've been to like the Getty Museum in Los Angeles, and they have a lot of this art. Like this kind of art, I get a little bored. Sorry if that offends anybody. It's just, I wouldn't even know how to describe my art style of what I like. Like this picture, I like because it's very thought-provoking. It's very intuitively insightful. I know what this feels like. I can see what is going on here. I know what this person is probably thinking or feeling, or at least it's easy to project onto. And that's what I use tarot and oracle for, projection. So, in a sense, sometimes if I get certain images like this is just really busy to me. And I do not connect with this at all. This kind of reminds me of like some of the old movies. The imagery looked very much like this, and it's not appealing. Also, this card is Council of Law. Not this card, which I would have thought would be Council of Law. And not this card, which is what I would have thought would be Council of Law. So I don't think that the images and the meaning don't really go together for me. Upturned. It does have some keywords down here, which is great. And the messages in the guidebook, it's like decent, but it's not enough to justify the disconnection that I have with the artwork. I thought I would like this because some of the images that I saw, like this one, I love this image. Temperance is my card for Sagittarius, so I definitely look for really pretty temperance cards. But like this one, oh, the rock, not so much. Cool Tower card. Aurora Borealis, which now where I live closer to the north, I have the opportunity to see, which is cool. So this kind of looks like where I'm living. So some of these images are great. But if I had to pick a deck that offered like a space to see myself in with little to no people in the aesthetic I like, it's probably going to be the Spacious Tarot, which I'm going to get. But again, this artwork is not my aesthetic. Also, the card meanings don't really go with the card to me. Like this one is 3 water. But I would have seen this more as 6 of Cups if I had to connect with that image. Or 6 of water. 4 of water is this, but I don't really see this as a 4 of water or 4 of Cups depiction. You see the 6 of Cups or 6 of water here. Really cool. Really cool card. Love this card. Can connect with the ocean, or it could be bay. But I don't see this as 6 of water, you know. I see this as 6 of water for some reason. This one I think for sure is going 8 of water, kind of like a departure, but it's not the kind of departure that looks like what departure would look like for the sake of interpreting a tarot card. Eight of Water, Eight of Cups. Maybe it's just a stretch. Like this. All the artists in this deck are different, so I don't think all the cards are done by the same artist, so that could also be why I can notice the difference. For instance, this kind of looks like there's a certain type of filming that's done figurines, or could even, this looks like maybe plastic figurines or something. And this one looks painted, like oil painting maybe. So this card is just a no for me, the art. But I love the cardstock. It's really easy to shuffle. I love the size of the cards. Oh, like this too. I'm not digging it. It's just, it reminds me of pictures I used to see in history books. And it was just, some of these cards are beautiful. The artwork, like this, I want to visit this place. This, I want to visit this place. This looks heartfelt, romantic. But then this, what is this? It's just, it's not connected. It's not connecting. I don't know, is this enough? Just maybe to say why I have to let it go, even though I really wanted to love this deck. Come on, just let it go. Yeah, yeah. Yep. And so I have a certain aesthetic that I like to see water depicted. This is a cool card, even if it doesn't really fit the deck. It's really cool. And so this deck just doesn't jive. Have I convinced you to convince me? I think so, right? Love the backs though, so pretty. I love the gold edging, also pretty. So that's the Majestic Earth Tarot. It's gonna go bye-bye, bye-bye. It just pains me when I look at it, and I know I'm not gonna use it because I can't connect with the art style as well. The Edgar Allan Poe Tarot. Oh, this one. I really like the artwork of this one. I think Eugene Smith has illustrated a few different decks. I do have the Beginner's Tarot or Easy Tarot that he illustrated, that I just kind of love the art style, so that's why I have it. This is the book. Really great production quality. You get full pages of the images. You get kind of like where they tie in the like Poe's work, like some of his stories. They tell you a little bit about it here, and then typically on the back of the page they'll kind of have a message that relates to the actual tarot meaning. The problem with this deck is that tarot already is balanced with light and shadow meanings, right? And this deck kind of takes even some positive cards and really skews it to the darker side. And so sometimes it can be kind of jarring. I like to have a good balance. I like being able to decide whether I see something as negative or positive, or shadow or light. I don't really like the deck to imply it for me, like overly so. And then sometimes I don't really see the illustration matching the card, And then it forces me to go read the book in order to understand like where the connection is. But then I have to read through a lot of information to get a message. I know what the Two of Wands means, but I don't see it here. And then when I read in the book what this is, it's like, yeah, kinda. It's like a stretch, maybe. Also, a lot of women die. A lot of women are dying or dead or have died. I think there was like a story message of one woman dying while giving childbirth. So then it kind of just plants that seed there that wasn't originally there. So I guess I don't particularly like that aspect of it. It's planting seeds that aren't there. I kind of like this card though for 10 of Wands. Pretty cool. But not that I would say this is 10 of Wands. See, that's the thing. And I'd have to read the book to really understand. Of course, all the cards where pose depicted is pretty cool. Any of these scenic cards, pretty cool. So, woman, let's see, corpse. This one, 5 of Pentacles. Well, you're like, what? And then you have to go read the book to understand. I mean, unless you want to just have a deck to interpret based on the title, but that's no fun, right? I mean, the cool part about tarot and oracle is that you're interpreting from the image, and this image, what does this say? I can make something up, but I don't want to. Now, the reason why I got this deck, though, is because I love the moody feel of this deck. I love the blues. I love the art style again. But this one, see? 4 of Wands. You have 2 angels whispering to each other. This, I think, is one of Poe's wife, right? One of, I don't know how many he had. Maybe it's the one, but... Oh, I think the message talked about mother. That she is a surrogate mother for Poe, since his mother died when he was really young. But why is she lying here, unconscious or dead? And why are these angels whispering? And do I want to take the extra effort to try to understand? Another image. So I know that there's another deck that came out, another Poe Tarot, and I think that one is done in a way that kind of relates Poe's personal work to the tarot in a way that fits what I like better. It doesn't have this really cool imagery with the blues, the moodiness. As a matter of fact, it's very muted, black and white. But it has the black and white image, mostly of Poe, and mostly Poe, really. And then kind of like a piece of his work at the bottom. And that I think I kind of like, because that's going to be an easy reader. So, 5 of Swords, King of Pentacles, the Emperor. This card's like way too distracting for me, 5 of Swords. I think I remember reading the message about this one too, but it's a little bit just too jarring. it doesn't, it's intuitively, I'm not able to pick up anything from it. Like, if there weren't tarot card titles here, you know, I could interpret this as some sort of glory and honor and pride, and maybe just like I don't really know. Yeah, so as much as I love the imagery of this card, I think I have to have like some standards, that because I can't just keep decks because I like the imagery, even though I think it's cool that you can own a piece of art, like, you know, this artist I do like, and these are 78 pieces of his art, so that's cool. But like, some of these cards are really cool too. I don't know. Okay, see? So the star, I totally get it, like the vibe. 10 of Pentacles. What? No. So, okay, poor Edgar Allan Poe Tarot. But I couldn't sleep at night knowing he was still here, so this one might have to go. Okay, we're almost done. Everyday Witch Tarot. I wasn't really considering giving this up. It's got a very playful vibe, but sometimes it feels like it's not serious enough for me. These are the backs. I am going to riffle shuffle, so if it's too loud, please protect your ears. Great. Love the imagery. I can totally pick up what these cards are throwing down. Someone mentioned too many witches' hats, but I mean, it's Everyday Witch Tarot, so I would expect there to be a lot of that. I think the art style is really pretty. It's very naturey, so I definitely jive towards, again, blues, greens. The backs, I like the blue, but it's not reversible. Again, I don't care about that, but it does feel a little cheesy to me. Like maybe if they just did the blue with the stars and left the broom, the hat, and the cat out. But that's probably the playful vibe. Again, this feels like a coloring book I would have bought when I was a kid, and I only want to color like all the pretty dresses kind of thing. I do like it because it's very easy to read and understand. I don't know what it is, but I don't like to pull it out because a part of me, because I use tarot for projection and just like deeper understanding and interpretation and kind of like catching, just monitoring and assessing and analyzing my own beliefs, perceptions, stuff like that. A part of me takes that seriously, and then this deck doesn't really give me like that serious vibe, that more psychologically complex vibe. Doesn't feel like that at all. Maybe this card's telling me something. Okay. Maybe take yourself too seriously. That's what maybe it's telling me. You need to relax. I do like it though. I mean, there are a lot of witchy oracle and tarot decks out there. But I'm not like a collector of them because I don't want too much of like one thing. But a lot of those ones can be dark, or maybe they come with a limited number of cards, so it doesn't feel as expansive. But then this one depicts witches in a lighthearted space, and in modern contexts, which is cool too. See, I love the nature in this. Yeah, I think I'd want to keep this for now. I think it's just my own bias getting in the way of keeping this deck, because I think, oh, it's too young for me. Not to say like Edgar Allan Poe tarot is not too young for me. It's just, again, this reminds me of a coloring book I probably had when I was a kid, so I've always wanted to be a witch for Halloween. I think I tried 2 years ago, but I was like, no, the pointy hat doesn't look good on me. So I think I'll keep this one because it's a really easy reader. Look at the owl, the trees, nature. It has a very grounding vibe to it because of the nature aspect. Cool Emperor card. Okay, you live to see another day. Everyday Witch Tarot. You can stay. Okay, what do we got left? Wisdom Keeper's Oracle. So I never really use this one because, you know, this one can kind of only be used in one context, which is you pull a card. You may or may not get anything intuitively from the cards. I edged this deck. You'll see a lot of my decks are edged because I just like to do that. It comes with a really neat book. Has a story of the person that you pull. Also a message and some questions for contemplation, journaling. So again, it's not really a deck where you can just pull an image, and unless you know a person or met a person that reminds you that you can pull your own message from, then you'd have to look it up in the book. So I think I pulled a card earlier. I pulled this one. Had a great message, and I really enjoyed reading the story. I think with this deck, if I was to keep it, I would probably have to treat it more like a storybook. For me, it's really important that I'm gaining more insight just from different backgrounds, different perspectives, expanding how I think about life from different points of views, experiences. So if I was to kind of use this as like a storybook, almost like a kid's book for adults, I think that can be cool because, you know, there's, I don't know how many cards, 64 faces, right? So there's 64 stories I can learn from. And I'm totally one of those people who might just come across a person and happen to learn so much about them, and I've never even met them in my life. And this is kind of like a safe way of doing that, because in my life I have attracted people and they've opened up in ways that were very meaningful to me. But then on the flip side, I have attracted very many people who maybe didn't have good intentions. And it was sort of a learning experience that the world is not always as safe as I'd optimistically like to think it is. So this is kind of like that way of basically interacting with 64 people from all walks of life, and I get a little piece of wisdom as like a nugget or token, and it doesn't really matter if they're real or imaginary, which, you know, I don't know. I didn't read the book about how the faces came to be, if these actually depict real people. But I can still learn something from them. And I'm all about life hacks. Not in a practical, applicable way per se, more in a theoretical, philosophical way. Life hacks for living through people and their experiences. So, you know, I have pulled cards from this, like this one I pulled before, this one I pulled before, this one I pulled before, but maybe I'm not done with it. Like, I still want to learn. Accept. Okay, I accept that I keep this for a little while longer. Okay, so I think that's all the decks I have to show for this. And I really appreciate you going along with me on this journey of going through decks and processing. So I think I'm not really getting rid of that many, but I think what's really on the chopping block are probably these ones here so far. Yeah. So I'm thinking that these are what's, I mean, I know that these two for sure are going. This one for sure, likely. And then these two probably in due time. So yeah. Thank you for coming along with me. You know, let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any other perspectives on, you know, why you'd keep a deck over letting one go. And I love practicing letting go of things because that's what life is, right? So until next time, thank you for stopping by. Bye-bye.